predecessor would have now engaged in a conspiracy to interfere with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines election. And we would have told you through litany of explanation just yesterday as to show that the UNC have history in interfering with elections. These things are facts. So it's not again to do the same thing, because if we had to talk about Cambridge Analytica, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, and we have to also talk about this thing that would have taken place with Anand Ram Logan. And here, Anil Roberts, why he went after the St. Vincent Prime Minister, because he literally went after Kamla, so he said.
Doubles and coffee. Recently, I find a CARICOM leader, the current Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez. I find he was a bit undiplomatic, inappropriate, very disrespectful of the current Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad.
I'm a little old-fashioned. It's not ready, fire, aim. It's ready, aim, fire. I believe in rule of law. I don't believe in the rule of Don, D-O-N. That's what we're up against in the United States of America. I don't want to lose my republic. I hope you understand and are absorbing what's going on in the United States of America. Donald Trump does not believe what our founding fathers believed, in co-equal branches of government. He does not believe in popular sovereignty. He does not believe in a system of checks and balances. We have a supine Congress that is checked out. We have a rule of law that I said increasingly appears to be the rule of Don. Our politics needs to change, and I hope our international partners understand that. It's chilling to me to see those scenes of the United States of America blowing up boats with no transparency, no advise and consent with the United States Congress, the representatives of my country, with briefings that are laughable that members of Congress, both the House and the Senate, including Republicans, have criticized. If you can't criticize that, what the hell can you criticize? Think about that. He's now talking about land opportunities. The United States of America, this is our country. It should be a model for the rest of the world. And so we're calling that out. Forgive me, I know I'm on a global stage and maybe in politic, forgive me. But this is a precious moment in our republic, and I feel it needs to be called out.
Thank you. We're close to time, so we'll take one last question.
So Ralph Gonzalez would have spoken out against just that. And Alan Roberts would have gone on the attack. Until we are seeing right here within the public domain that the Kamla Prasad administration has been publicly alleging that individuals acting. A matter of fact, it have been. I mean, there have been people that making their opinion known within the public domain that is saying that they are going to St. Vincent. All because you like what a man say. Yeah, I mean, you see it yourself, this is dangerous here in this country. If you have a difference of opinion concerning this government, and Anil Roberts is going to this length to break the law to obtain information on an individual, imagine what they will do against you, Trinidad and Tobago. This is a warning to you, you know. What is taking place here is facts, you know. You feel somewhere along the line they will treat you differently. You are engaging in a fallacy that we call the survivorship fallacy, where you feel that where everybody going and fail, you are going to succeed. If that is the mentality of Kamla Prasad Bissessa, that at one point in time you're saying something, and at the other point in time you're saying something totally different. Though I feel and I understand, and people is making pronouncement here in Trinidad and Tobago, and Kamla Prasad Bissessa saying she don't care. How the hell or you can support a government still like that? Man, clip number 2. We had to bring this thing home. We having a guest that is going to join us here this afternoon on this platform. But before I bring on the guests on this platform, let me get the clip. We need to play these things in it. Or you need to understand what is taking place in your beloved country. Now, you would have heard Kamla Prasad Bisesa. You would have heard Anil Roberts. And Anil Roberts gone so far to attack a prime minister in the next country. All because he make a statement. He didn't care what he say. I don't want to hear. That is what he basically saying. You go after Kamla, we think, and hear what Kamla is saying about the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We elected her. We elected her.
The Prime Minister has labelled a recent peace vigil as a dismal failure and is not concerned about any fallout after the joint trade union movement, a known ally of the government, threw its support behind it. The vigil on Sunday, organized by a coalition of civil society groups, which JTM publicly endorsed, came amid growing regional tensions. In a statement, the union said its position was rooted in the belief that nobody wins a war. Asked whether the union's move could signal a rift, Kamla Bisesa dismissed any such suggestion. Bisesa took further aim at civil society groups, saying, quote, "The majority of citizens were fed up with gimmickry and fakeness masking our civil society, particularly civil society groups who have been in hibernation for the last 10 years. Minister in the Ministry of Public Utilities and former Communication Workers Union General Secretary Clyde Alder said JTM's position does not erode relations with the government. In other news, with infrastructural upgrades needed at the San Fernando market and a $4.4 million cut in funding, the San...
That's the whole clip. Let me bring it back again.
Okay, I'm Justy Ramley with headline news here on CNC3 and the TBC Radio Network. The Prime Minister has labelled a recent peace vigil as a dismal failure.
The Prime Minister, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, would have labelled recent vigil as a dismal failure. Something that she's supposed to be treating with concern. There are many citizens, down to Barbara Burke and all, would have came down and made her opinion known concerning the war games, her stance. Barbara Burke, the same person just the other day that was appointed a temporary senator position by the UNC administration. Why does he slimy playing that clip all the time? The prayers that he like to play in the beginning, the darker man with the head tie, Barbara Burke. I'm a matter of fact. I'm going to bring this clip. Because at the end of the day, there are certain things that must be shown to you, Trinidad and Tobago. Barbara Burke was outside there talking about this war. And I go show you from inception. There's so much of clips here with us. Sometimes we're going through a whole litany of clips. Nah, we ain't seen that clip yet. But we will play it and we go find it and play it. Slimy does always play it on this program. So we go get to that clip. But again, to you citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider public, the government of this country has made two things very clear. They do not care about your opinion. Whether or not you come out in your numbers and you protest and you say anything that is in contravention to what current UNC administration is doing, this is what they will do to you.
Doubles and coffee. Recently I find a CARICOM leader, the current Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves. I find he was a bit undiplomatic, inappropriate, very disrespectful of the current Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Bissessa, as she tries to keep her country safe,
reminder of the imperial arrogance
uphold
that
her
has long
promises to the
treated
people to allow them to live in our beautiful Twin Island state with safety and security. A major tenet of that plan is crippling the narco trade, the narco terrorists, the cocaine trade, the drug trade, the gun trade, and the human trafficking trade that has plagued our beloved country of Trinidad and Tobago, making blood flow in the streets. So Kamla Bissessa is against drug traffickers, cocaine traffickers, gun smugglers, and human traffickers. But the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, with a sort of fervor that baffled me, was disrespectful and attacked Kamla Bissessa, calling her misguided and stating that CARICOM needed leaders that are statesmanlike and womanlike, stateswomanlike. I wondered where this passion and this disrespectful attitude came from with Ralph Gonsalves. Listening to him as he addressed some UE forum and other places, I saw him maybe sounding like Keith Rowley or the PNM. And I wondered, why would this man be beholden to the PNM? Why would he be talking with venom against the United National Congress leader and Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Bissessa? His statements were inappropriate, undiplomatic, disrespectful, and partisan to the politics of another sovereign nation, which he had no part to play. But he sound like a PNM. But you know the Dogra will always go and research and find things. Well, Ralph Gonsalves, you see, when you jump in, people think you have to declare any and all interests. Ralph Gonsalves, before you jump in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago to try to lecture the Honorable Kamla Bissessa on anything that doesn't involve you, she is duly elected in Trinidad and Tobago to forge the foreign policy, the security policy, and any policy in Trinidad and Tobago, to set up the cabinet, run the government. How you jump in, Ralph Gonsalves? And why you jump in like a PNM so? Did you declare any interest? Did you receive any benefit from the PNM? Any benefit whatsoever that may have people in Trinidad and Tobago scratching their bald head like me? Ralph Gonsalves, I ask you, are you married, Ralph Gonsalves? How long have you been married? Do you have 2 children, Ralph Gonsalves? Are your children's names Sole Gonsalves and Storm Gonsalves? Is your wife's name Eloise Gonsalves? I ask this because Honorable Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, did you disclose to Trinidad and Tobago, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and to the people of St. Vincent and CARICOM, that when you are speaking, you have received, your family has received great benefit from the PNM? And to the members of the PNM, to Keith Rowley, and to the former ministers of housing, and those hired by the PNM to conduct housing policy in Trinidad and Tobago, where after 9.5 years, a paltry 4,775 houses were built. The list of applicants waiting and begging for housing in Trinidad and Tobago now stands at 214,000 citizens. To the PNM, to Rowley, and to Ralph Gonzalez, are these documents that I hold in my hand belonging to the family of Ralph Gonzalez? This letter to Storm Gonzalez, dated the 21st of August 2018, from the HDC, the Housing Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, saying, letter of offer of sale of property at Victoria Keys, Unit 1E, Tower 2, Unit type, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. This document for Storm Gonzalez of an HDC house in Trinidad and Tobago at Victoria Keys, signed by former HDC Director in 2018, Brent Lyons.
What is your problem?
Ralph Gonzalez, is that your son? He stated here that he is an IT and app development company, and he's a businessman and so on, and that he makes 25,000 exactly per month. You know that the policy in Trinidad and Tobago and HCC is if you make 25,001 cents, you do not qualify to apply for HDC housing.
The monitor I can help you with.
This here also is another HDC house to an Eloise Gonzalez, a housing development corporation house built with taxpayers' money of the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Ralph Gonzalez is Eloise Gonzalez, your wife.
Most likely something just got dislodged. So
is she in receipt of an HDC house from the PNM?
Bring it in.
Mr. Ralph Gonzalez. Is Soleil Gonzalez your daughter? Is she also in receipt of an HDC house from the PNM, paid for per month by you, Ralph Gonzalez? And in these documents, Ralph Gonzalez, I'm not going to ask you some questions because it's all here. Ralph Gonzalez, your entire family getting house in Trinidad and Tobago from the PNM, your wife, your son, and your daughter, $1.9 million for one, $1.96 million for one,
and especially to the more than 100,000 citizens who are patiently waiting in line to get approval on HDC homes. Many of you would have seen and been in shock where you see on social media where Minister Anna Roberts, the Minister of Housing, Minister in the Ministry of Housing, exposed the fact that family members of the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, namely his wife, his son and his daughter, were able to purchase government-subsidized $1 million HDC homes. Now, we would have seen back and forth between the Prime Minister, and you would have also seen a number of documents floating around social media. Documents which I have here in my hand here now. And I took the opportunity, given that my mother, who was a real estate agent of 20 years, retired, would know what the cost of properties would be and the value of rentals would be. I took the opportunity to peruse these documents and see, really what was the mischief in this deal. And the one that stuck out for me in particular, let me turn to it, was the purchase of the property by Soleil Gonzalez, the daughter of Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, where she would have purchased one of these premium apartments at a cost of 1.3 million TT dollars. Now, this was the first thing that jumped out to me as a red flag. You see, this property, as the former Prime Minister had confirmed, is a very premium property. And it sits around the areas of West Moorings and Victoria Gardens. And for those who know West Moorings and Victoria Gardens will know that this is some of the most expensive real estate to either purchase or rent in Trinidad and Tobago. And when I looked at the cost of $1.3 million for this property, that stuck out to me as a red flag. Because a property in this area, of this nature, with security guards, gated...
Now, it's sounding as if it's sounding logical, eh? It's sounding like if these people are onto something, right? Trinidad and Tobago misinformation have a way. Lie have speed, but truth have endurance. Now, again, let me don't reinvent the wheel. Now, this was also said by a next political commentator. That would have explained this thing here in full.
Right now is Victoria Keys. Yes, that same Victoria Keys that has been in use in the past couple of days. Yes, that's what. I'm going to use this example to show you all the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Let's get into it. As all of you know, HBC's mandate is to provide low-cost housing to persons who otherwise would not be able to get a home. And Victoria Keys fell into that because according to the records, not how I feel, not my opinion, but according to the records, Victoria Keys was conceptualized back in 2005 with that mandate in mind. And as a result of that mandate, Victoria Keys was supposed to have 264 modest apartments for Trinidad and Tobago citizens under the HBC's mandate. At that time, Rowley was the Minister of Housing and Patrick Manning was the Prime Minister. The PNM lost the election in 2010, as all of you know, and sometime in 2011, under the People's Partnership, they decided to instruct HBC to enlarge the scope of Victoria Keys. So the cost of the entire project went from $250 million to $652 million when all was accounted for. And these modifications moved the housings from people who were low to middle income to the upper echelon, which is not what HBC was supposed to be about in the first place. But they were in government and they did it. Where are we in the story? The project was conceptualized in 2005. It was almost complete in 2010. Then the PNM lost the elections, the People's Partnership took over. They then modified the scope of the project that dragged it on from 2010 to 2015 when they lost the election, and the PNM reassumed office, now led by Dr. Rowley. But they had an issue. You had an HEC project that was supposed to cost $250 million taxpayers' dollars that ballooned to $652 million of taxpayers' dollars, which put these units out of the reach of what it was supposed to be for.
Now, you hear that? Now let me revisit the Doty statement from David Lyda and Arnold Roberts. Here there is Doty's statement. Thanks Caribbean Soul for making that word available to me. You understand? Let me revisit David Lyda, Doty's statement. Thanks again Caribbean Soul.
And especially to the more than 100,000 citizens who are patiently waiting in line to get approval on HDC homes. Many of you would have seen and been in shock where you see on social media where Minister Anna Roberts, the Minister of Housing, Minister in the Ministry of Housing, exposed the fact that family members of the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, namely his wife, his son and his daughter, were able to purchase government-subsidized $1 million HDC homes. Now, you would have seen back and forth between the Prime Minister, and you would have also seen a number of documents floating around social media. Documents which I have here in my hand here now. And I took the opportunity, given that my mother, who was a real estate agent of 20 years, retired would know what the cost of properties would be and the value of rentals would be. I took the opportunity to peruse these documents and see, really what was the mischief in this deal. And the one that stuck out for me in particular, let me turn to it, was the purchase of the property by Soleil Gonzalez, the daughter of Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez, where she would have purchased one of these premium apartments at a cost of 1.3 million TT dollars. Now, this was the first thing that jumped out to me as a red flag. You see, this property, as the former Prime Minister had confirmed, is a very premium property. And it sits around the areas of West Moorings and Victoria Gardens. And for those who know West Moorings and Victoria Gardens will know that this is some of the most expensive real estate to either purchase or rent in Trinidad and Tobago. And when I looked at the cost of $1.3 million for this property, that stuck out to me as a red flag.
Now, you see, these men and them trying to make a storm in a teacup. A next piece of dunceness by David Lyda. I know if he a naked going competition. It start off with stupidness from Anna Roberts and then it spread. People, all you had to think about what is going on outside here, you know. You hear where Anna Roberts say. You hear that it implicate itself. You know, like Anel might be sending documents say. But hear the truth. Hear the truthful part about this whole ordeal here. This whole ordeal here.
In fiscal 2018, we will step up our efforts to have all these units sold so that we can receive all the revenue possible. And very soon we'll be inviting, Madam Speaker, real estate agents to come in and assist the HDC in selling the units. We will step up our efforts to have all these units sold so that we can receive all the revenue possible. And very soon we'll be inviting, Madam Speaker, real estate agents to come in and assist the HDC in selling the units. In fiscal 2018, we will step up our efforts to have all these units sold so that we can receive all the revenue possible. And very soon we'll be inviting, Madam Speaker, real estate agents to come in and assist the HDC in selling the units.
So you hear David Lyda part. You hear Anel Roberts part. A drunk. Known to be drunk all over the place. And hear the truth. I mean, we just played a little piece from Marsha, from Rambles. But let me play Marsha Walker side of the story.
Did Anel Roberts break the Integrity in Public Life Act when he, bust a mark on Ralph Gonzalez? And we'll discuss the details as to why it really wasn't a mark to be busted anyway. But let me take some time to read a part of that act. And you can judge for yourself whether you believe that this is a matter for the police. Section 28 of the the Integrity in Public Life Act states, matters of a confidential nature in the possession of persons to whom this part applies shall be kept confidential unless the performance of duty or the needs of justice strictly require otherwise, and shall remain confidential even after separation from service. Persons who must abide by this act include ministers, MPs, and members of state boards. I mention members of state boards because Ken Ali, I believe he is a member of a state board. I saw that he shared the documents as well. So this to me is worrisome. One, what you're seeing is information that actually pertains to the ministry under which Anil Roberts serves. He is the junior minister of housing. And now, lo and behold, you know, these confidential documents, I mean, up to, there are things about, you know, person's income, how much they earn, their right standing with the bank, their account numbers. You know, there's a lot of personal information that has been released. So they didn't just bust a mark. They didn't go and say, you know, they didn't go and search public documents to confirm that they do own a property at Victoria Keys. The documents that are now in the public domain, that are shared by ministers and by board members, are highly sensitive and confidential documents. Are we really okay with this? What does this do for our relationship with our CARICOM brothers and sisters? I mean, Ralph Gonzalez is a well-respected veteran in CARICOM. He is like grandfather of CARICOM. Is this really how we intend to build relationships in Caribbean and Latin America? Is this good for trade? What are we doing? Now, I'm going to put that aside for a bit, and I just want to take a little bit of time to address the facts behind all the bacchanal. It's about 2005, because in 2017, when the project was completed, when they opened Victoria Keys, and I mean, I pass Victoria Keys every day, it was said that the project went from something like 200 million, let me get the exact figure, so it started at $250 million in 2017. Then Housing Minister would have spoken, and he said it would have been 12 years ago at that time. So the project lasted 12 years. It started at $250 million. 12 years later, it had ballooned to $652 million. And the cost of the project and the fittings and everything no longer fit under low income. If the government sold those units to low income, part of the HDC housing scheme, the government of the day would have made massive losses. So quite rightly, they decided that even though it was a state-sponsored project and it was meant initially for low-income housing and it was meant to be part of the HDC housing scheme, it was not financially sustainable to have it remain as such. And so it was now going to be sold on the open market to anyone who can afford it. Ralph Gonzalez's families, let's go through some of the figures. One of the units, they paid 1.96 million. The other unit, they paid some 1.6 million for, and well, the other unit is a rental unit. Just to put those figures in context, 1.96 is what he paid for a 2-bedroom property. Just down the road is West Hills, which is currently, so that's some 7 years later, currently selling their 3-bedroom penthouse for, I think it's 1.6 million. But certainly less than the 1.96, right? It might be 1.8. I think it is as low as 1.6. So that is just to show you and to give context to the figures that are being thrown around. So this is in no way a subsidized price. This is in no way a price that is way below market value. This person paid $1.96 million for a 2-bedroom apartment. I say P&M did well, if you ask me, to be honest. All right, so that's just to put that in context. We are now in 2025. And in 2018, then Housing Minister stood in Parliament and said the government is committed to selling these because they were obviously difficult to sell. I guess nobody who can afford it wants to live in anything that says it's HDC, right? So Anyways, they said they were going to hire real estate agents. So this really became an open market, free for all. Anybody who can afford it, anybody who wanted it, it was now available. In 2025, there are still available units. Because the truth is, persons who are applicants for HDC houses simply cannot afford it. So it has nothing to do with a lottery. It has nothing to do with whether Ralph Gonzalez's family was able to skip the line. The units are still available. Anybody who wants to purchase one, anyone who can afford to purchase a 1.96, I mean, there are penthouses. Those are being sold for like $4 million. So if you can afford it, by all means, show up and afford it. This is not a typical HDC housing scheme. So it is nothing more than bacchanal, unnecessary bacchanal. I mean, we already being unnecessarily illegal with our whole, being complicit in Trump's bombings. Why the international, why are we trying to break ties with our CARICOM neighbors unnecessarily? It is crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy to me. As I said, it is my opinion, but of course I think that this calls for the police or whoever it is to certainly look into Anil Roberts and, did he breach the Integrity in Public Life Act? I mean, I quoted it for y'all. He has a duty of confidentiality. He is the Minister in Housing. Is he being paid? Is he and Philip Alexander? Because, I mean, we've not seen one house key given out. And we have 3 ministers in Ministry of Housing. And the other 2 seem to just be being content creators on social media. Are they being paid to get in there and use their access to find files to bust a mark? If Ralph Gonzalez did something illegal, then those documents should have been confidentially passed on to the TTPS and to the relevant authorities to investigate it and press charges. Trinidad and Tobago, we don't want drama and bacchanal. What we don't want doubles and coffee. We want justice and jail. If persons did something wrong, send it to the relevant authorities and let's put them behind bars. I hope this has cleared it up, and I'm going to end with Anil. Can you probably clear up for us the live sport issue? I mean, $8 million was spent without a cabinet note or anything, and I know you're intelligent and you can find information out. So was that story by Mark Bassam true or not?
Huh. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was the entire clip from Marsha Walker that would have explained this thing in its entirety. Now, we would have posted a link within the chat that who are there and are watching and want to join us here live in studio. The link is pinned to the top. All you have to do is join. We are going to see, and you're going to join me here on screen if you have the testicular fortitude. There are a lot of people outside there just talk about that fact. But when coming to explain certain things, they neither here nor there where that is concerned. Now, Anil Roberts is in the Ministry of Housing. Fact. Where did Anil Roberts get those documents? And the means that he would have used to reveal these documents. Is it not illegal? Question to you, the public. So to you that is joining us here this afternoon, it has been publicly alleged that individuals acting on behalf of Kamla Prasad Bisesa may be attempting to influence or interfere with the electoral process in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. While these claims remain unverified, they raise serious questions about the priority of any political involvement in foreign nations' election and whether such action could breach regional norms and sovereignty of any and non-interference. Any sovereignty of that particular nation. That is the question. Because we see people make videos and state that they are going to St. Vincent and campaign. That's what they say. All because Ralph Gonzalez would have made a statement that many of you, well, the UNC, don't agree with, according to Anil Roberts. Is that the case going forward, a matter of fact? Is that the case going forward, that anybody disagree with this administration, that they will attack them publicly? Question to you, the public. Now, I would have gotten a voice note from Mr. Wendell Eversley that I'm going to play here this afternoon. He would have shown serious concern concerning what is taking place next door to us in Venezuela. And what I am going to do here is play this voice note, and I hope that many of you understand the seriousness of what is taking place here within this country. And so your understanding. Right, so much.
Good morning, issues and TNT. Members, I don't know if you all noticing what is taking place right in front of our very eyes in Trinidad and Tobago, with conflict between United States of America and Venezuela. Members, we must not be distracted by things being put out there, for us to concentrate on our Caribbean neighbors. We have to stay focused on what's taking place between United States and Venezuela, and what role Trinidad and Tobago is playing. Members, if you all listen to and following international news and listen to the comments put out by the President of the United States of America on Air Force One yesterday concerning Venezuela, and listen to his major security team met, including the Secretary for War, including the Vice President, including the heads of the Army for United States of America, including the Vice President and also Donald Trump. And one of the key things he said is that he's keeping secret his plan for Venezuela. We in the Caribbean calling for the Caribbean to remain a zone of peace. And something is not right in our own country, where we hear the Foreign Affairs Minister do not know what's taking place. Homeland Homeland Security Minister not serious about really what Trinidadians and Tobagonians should know. The Defense Minister, we're not hearing anything from him. While the population, a lot of the population in panic. And if you all do not know what's taking place, if my own son, who's in Form 3, asking me, Daddy, are Trinidad and Tobago going to be caught up in war with Venezuela and America? If school children also concerned what is taking place in this country, and then after we have people trying to distract us with some housing issue, then something definitely wrong in our country. And issues of Trinidad and Tobago, issues in Trinidad and Tobago, we are a group where I think could create an impact. And it's time we let our voices be heard. It's time we put out, there's only one of you I see going out there and putting out in the public, putting their face out there in the public domain. I must compliment Marsha Walker, doing a good job. Right? I must compliment also Devon Welch. But we had to come out and talk. Our country is going down as a state that plenty people will fall into. If you are not concerned and worried about what's taking place in Trinidad and Tobago, I am worried and I am concerned. And it looks like we're seeing things taking place in front of our own eyes, and we have been keep hearing, do not panic, stay quiet.
So that was the words of Wendell Eversley. And what Wendell Eversley talking about is the information that we are hearing right just next door to us. A war is ensuing. Venezuelans are getting ready to go to war. And then you are hearing people saying that, hey, don't panic, nothing going to happen right next door to we. Man, playing smart with foolishness outside here. Just what I say, we playing smart with foolishness. According to Fazir.
The response from Kamla in the UNC's usual Monday night stupidness, the Monday night forum. Never has there been a better name for an event, the Monday night forum for the UNC. But in her reference to eater food lawyers and so on, and the reference to the names and so, I don't know why the Express sees it as shockingly crass. Because this is a woman who stood up in Parliament and said she could not support the Caribbean Court of Justice because it had no Indians. So what she said Monday is par for the course. You know what you should do? And put a big wall around the former Prime Minister's estate. In fact, make it even wider. Call it Indish. Because at one time there were these activists who wanted to declare a separate state, India, combination of India and Bangladesh, Indish. Call that place Indish. Let all the fanatics go in there. Give them a few acres and things. Have the Queen of the Philippines as their ruler. And they'll be happy and leave the rest of it, let me cope with whatever we have left.
So that was we are seeing no consistencies with this government. And all before election, there were things that have been said that they're not saying again. Now we would have finally get in contact with Wendell Eversley, and we are going to bring him on this show today. Now, a matter of fact. So just bear with us 1 minute, because he would have said some things, a matter of fact, that this thing here is just a big distraction in Trinidad and Tobago concerning. Right, so we go in and play the Sean Sobers clip. How to play that clip? Sean Sobers totally don't know what's taking place within his country.
If it happens, trust that your government will stand with you, and we will make the best possible decision in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Sean Sobers initially dismissed any possibility of war in the Caribbean as conjecture, but did not rule the possibility out altogether, noting that government would make the best decision even if such a situation arises. Earlier today, Sobers announced that the U.S. Marine Expeditionary Unit will be engaged in joint training exercises with the Defense Force between the 16th to the 21st this month. Sobers reported that the exercises would involve combat techniques and incorporate U.S. military helicopters in urban and rural environments across TNT. But when asked if the upcoming military drills, the third US-led training this year alone, were the precursor to a possible conflict with Venezuela, Sobers was short and blunt.
No, there's absolutely no information to suggest that.
Responding to concerns that conflict involving the US and Venezuela was close, Sobers said weapons of war have been on Trinidad's streets long before the arrival of the US military.
Persons have been going around this country indiscriminately shooting at people with AK-47s and AR-15s, which are weapons of war, for some time, prior to what is taking place now.
But retired Coast Guard Commander Norman Dindial says he isn't convinced that the US military presence would be limited to training exercises alone, as he says the timing of the operations was too much of a coincidence.
And a high military build-up in the Caribbean Sea, and you have operation, that operation that coming out of Southern Command, and the optics is nice at all. And you better ask yourself, what is our military getting ourselves involved in?
Referring to the capabilities of such a fighting force and the build-up of US naval assets in the region, Dindial says the USMEU's arrival was something to pay close attention to. Shane Superville, CNC3 News.
Now, that right there is what they are telling us to not to pay attention to. One of the biggest destroyer is just outside our waters. The US gravely that could house jets, fighter jet, and thousands of troops. They're just outside and we just there to take down P-ROMs. And at the end of the day, Trinidad and Tobago, if you are telling yourself that this thing ain't gonna affect you, then you're sadly mistaken. I am prepared to fight for my country, to be quite honest. But I am not prepared to die for foolishness. If it is that we have to go to war here in this country, then so be it. But if you have a government that is escalating and is not using diplomacy, then something is wrong. And you are seeing none of them is taking blame for it. Weapons of war, AK. What nonsense Sean Sobers talking? You ever see a tank on the street? You ever see a bomber on the street? A knife. All soldiers wear a knife, have a knife. They just use that in war. Is that a weapon of war? These men are using equivocation to make a point. And they're understanding that they are making themselves look like dunce. Army suit, clothes, boots, shoes, these things, you use it in war. Are they weapons of war? Or are they things that is used in war? And at the end of the day, Trinidad and Tobago, we are here trying to give excuses for... It is nonsense this man talking about. It is nonsense Sean Sobers talking about.
If it happens, trust that your government will stand with you and we will make the best possible decision in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Sean Sobers initially dismissed any possibility of war in the Caribbean as conjecture, but did not rule the possibility out altogether, noting that government would make the best decision even if such a situation arises. Earlier today, Sobers announced that the U.S. Marine Expeditionary Unit will be engaged in joint training exercises with the Defense Force between the 16th to the 21st this month. Sobers reported that the exercises would involve combat techniques and incorporate U.S. military helicopters in urban and rural environments across TNT. But when asked if the upcoming military drills, the third U.S.-led training this year alone, were the precursor to a possible conflict with Venezuela, Sobers was short and blunt.
No, there's absolutely no information to suggest that.
Responding to concerns that conflict involving the U.S. and Venezuela was close, Sobers said weapons of war have been on Trinidad's streets long before the arrival of the U.S. military.
Persons have been going around this country indiscriminately shooting at people with AK-47s and AR-15s, which are weapons of war, for some time, prior to what is taking place now.
But retired Coast Guard Commander Norman Dindial says he isn't convinced that the U.S. military presence would be limited to training exercises alone, as he says the timing of the operations was too much of a coincidence.
And that high military build-up in the Caribbean Sea, and you have operation, that operation that coming out of Southern Command, and the optics is nice at all. And you better ask yourself, what is our military getting ourselves involved in?
Referring to the capabilities of such a fighting force and the buildup of U.S. naval assets in the region, Dindial says the U.S.
No information to suggest that.
Responding to concerns that conflict involving the U.S. and Venezuela was close, Sobers said weapons of war have been on Trinidad's streets long before the arrival of the U.S. and Venezuela was close. Sobers said weapons of war have been on Trinidad's streets long before the arrival of the U.S. military.
Persons have been going around this country
Venezuela was close. Sobers said weapons of war have been on Trinidad's streets long before the arrival of the U.S. military.
Persons have been going around this country indiscriminately shooting at people with AK-47s and AR.
Venezuela was close. Sobers said weapons of war have been on Trinidad's streets long before the arrival of the U.S. military.
Persons have been going around this country indiscriminately shooting at people with AK-47s and AR-15s, which are weapons of war.
My God. People going around with guns, AK-47, shooting people indiscriminately. And that is weapons of war, a knife. All soldiers wear them. And that weapons of war too. You see, when people are using equivocation, they're trying to make a wrong thing right and a right thing wrong, that is called for concern. You hear Sean Sobers? Somebody that ought to be intelligent enough to run the office because you was chosen by a prime minister that thought you capable. And all of a sudden we reach that point that every little thing is turned as weapon. I mean drug trade, that war. So we have to bring a destroyer, submarine, map out the whole area to do what? To invade a sovereign nation. And Trinidad again is involving themselves, or trying to involve themselves in the St. Vincent election. And people that is well prominent people within the UNC is doing this. Just the other day we had elections in Trinidad and Tobago and we have been calling for observers. Why these men in this country is trying to what? To muzzle our next leader. And it's known, the UNC is known for interfering with elections in other countries.
The arrival of the US military.
Persons have been going around this country indiscriminately shooting at people with AK-47s and AR-15s, which are weapons of war, for some time, prior to what is taking place now.
But retired Coast Guard Commander Norman Dindial says he isn't convinced that the US military presence would be limited to training exercises alone, as he says the timing of the operations was too much of a coincidence.
And a high military build-up in the Caribbean Sea, and you have that operation that coming out of Southern Command. The optics is nice at all. And you better ask yourself, what is our military getting ourselves involved in?
Referring to the capabilities of such a fighting force and the buildup of US naval assets in the region, Dindial says the USMEU's arrival was something to pay close attention to. Shane Superville, CNC3 News.
Government is yet to react to the announcement late on Thursday night that the U.S. Department of War is renaming the deployment of aircrafts and warships in the Southern Caribbean as a new Operation Southern Spear. That's the name that the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, gave to this deployment that in theory allegedly is meant to stem drug trafficking coming out of Venezuela. But when we spoke with the Venezuelan president earlier on Thursday, he had a different message to send to Donald Trump.
We're focused on the people, governing with peace, with these young people building. To unite for the peace of the continent. No more endless wars, no more unjust wars, no more Libya, no more Afghanistan. My message is yes, peace. Yes, peace.
Now those words are consistent with previous message that Maduro had given to the press and especially here on Venezuelan television, trying to mediate and trying to reach a negotiation with the White House. However, it's important to notice that that was Maduro's first appearance in a non-controlled environment in weeks. And especially he wanted to be seen surrounded by regular people, supporters of the Venezuelan government, and to send a message perhaps to the White House that he is not just ready to bend to the pressure coming out of Washington. For CNN, this is Stefano Pozzebon, Caracas.
That was Maduro. Surrounded by the people within his country. Loved by the people within his country. Despite what you want to say about Maduro, despite what take place, he had $50 million US bounty on his head. And the people within his country supports him. The only thing that is crippling Venezuela is these sanctions that have been placed on the head, that have been pronounced on the Venezuelans. But somebody now message me and say. But look at what they say about Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the same government that you now see Maduro around. They praising him. Or you're getting tired here, people know how evil and wicked Trump is, There are people that know how evil and wicked Trump is. You own the same people that he ruling over. They fed up with Trump. They don't want Trump there at all. He making unconstitutional decisions. Going to war with this one, going to war with that one. Everybody like he bravado. But not again. It costing the citizenry.
Donald Trump, hands up.
From the city to the suburbs, massive crowds gathered in hopes of sending a message to the Trump administration. Grant Park was packed early this afternoon as thousands gathered there for a hands-off rally before protesters marched through the city streets.
I'm a lifelong registered Republican, but enough is enough.
Mayor Brandon Johnson was also there today, addressing the crowd in Grant Park.
Are you all ready to defend this democracy? Are you ready to fight fascism? Are you prepared to destroy authoritarianism once and for all? Well, let the world hear you. No kings!
The rally remained peaceful in downtown throughout the day with the presence of Chicago police all around the area. Protesters say today's rally is even more important as they're frustrated with federal immigration operations in Chicago and attempts from the administration to deploy the National Guard.
There's an assault on democracy. We don't have kings. We, the people, have a power with our vote, and it should be equal and it should be heard. And when there's a domestic assault on our electorate and the power of the people, I think we should all collectively stand with one another.
We saw more of the same in Logan Square with people bringing out their signs and chants in another rally. And on the south side, crowds stood through some rain and filled the sidewalks for their own protest near 103rd and Western. Many drivers passing by offering their support as well. Protesters also responding to comments made by the Trump administration this week about these No Kings rallies.
They keep selling that all this is about hate rally, hate this, Hamas this, Hamas that, Do you see any haters here? No. We're all here to make a point that the government is us.
Several suburbs around Chicago also got in on the action today, holding similar rallies. Crowds of people came together in Arlington Heights and Forest Park, among many other areas.
Foreign Affairs Minister Sean Sobers spoke with Venezuela's ambassador after Tuesday's vote. While he described the conversation as cordial, he said he expressed deep concern and grave disappointment with the Assembly's position on the resolution. But his colleagues within the government are far less restrained.
Venezuela can do what they want. For us, she's all grata.
Even as Venezuelans marched, calling her a criminal, David Naked defended the Prime Minister and praised her for standing firm against external pressure.
We love her because what she intends to do for this country, no other Prime Minister is prepared to do. Put her life on the line, put everything on the line, make sure that our citizens are safe from the drug cartel.
The parliamentary secretary also took aim at the opposition, accusing the People's National Movement of hypocrisy after their meeting with the Venezuelan ambassador.
And that's why I refer to the PNM leadership as rabid dogs when they're not in government. When the PNM leadership and the black bourgeoisie, African for their people, not in government, they will do anything to return to government.
But opposition Senator Faris Al-Rawi fired back, condemning Naked's sentiments.
There's nothing of worth coming out of his contributions. That is not the kind of talking head that you want in this equation at all.
Meanwhile, independent Senator Anthony Vieira urged calm amid the growing war of words.
For the moment, I'd prefer to make no comment. It's all very unfortunate, and I hope things will sort themselves out in due course.
Political analyst Derek Ramsamouch says the fallout could complicate future negotiations on energy and border issues unless both sides make a diplomatic reset.
A need for a strategic reset is needed if we are to benefit from the resources of both countries.
But political scientist Dr. Bishnu Raghunath says the declaration may be limited, arguing that it only prevents the Prime Minister from entering Venezuela, a move he calls largely symbolic. Doris Polo, CNC3 News.
Good afternoon again, Trinidad and Tobago. As I would have said, we have a guest joining us here live this afternoon. Now, I mean, he's supposed to come in a little early, but things has happened. So, and Mr. Eversley want to talk specifically concerning issues that is taking place down here in Venezuela. And he would have been on a lot of marches, as a matter of fact. I mean, as the thing. Mr. Eversley, good afternoon, sir. And I mean, you have a wealth of information and a contribution to make concerning what's taking place over in Venezuela. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago, and good afternoon to all those who locked on your program. A great leader had once said in 1990, and he made this statement while he visited the United States of America. And he said, your enemies should not be our enemies. It was an association that he was referring to when asked a question about the situation with United States and Cuba. And I was speaking about the leader is former president and leader of the ANC in South Africa, Nelson Mandela, when he said, your enemies should not be our enemies. And the principal stance in the Caribbean should always be a zone of peace. We know the issue that is taking place with Venezuela and Guyana concerning a certain part of Venezuela, a certain part of Guyana where Venezuela is claiming that it belongs to them. That matter is before the ICC. And the president of Guyana has said, let's wait until the ruling of the court. We all know the tension built up between Guyana and Venezuela. You all know certain leaders from CARICOM held meeting along with the Venezuelan president, the Guyana president, and other Caribbean leaders. And you all see the outcome. Even as the matter today and the build-up of the tension in the Caribbean waters, we heard from the president of Guyana, the current president, President Ali, who said also too that the Caribbean must always remain a zone of peace. And as a national of Trinidad and Tobago, and I concern what is taking place. And I am really want to see that our country, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Caribbean remain a zone of peace. And going back to what Nelson Mandela said, your enemies should not be our enemies. And Trinidad and Tobago should take that stand, that your enemies should not be our enemies. Each country have the problems where drugs is concerned, where guns is concerned. We do not manufacture guns. We do not also produce or manufacture the drugs that we see entering our shores. But we must also know that our country, Trinidad and Tobago, is a population, when they combine both Trinidad and Tobago, is about 1.6 million people or less. And if we see certain building up and the population is being left out and the population is being told, do not panic. We have nothing to worry about. And then we see certain developments taking place in our shores and on our land. Citizens must be concerned on what is really taking place. Because we must ask if the joint military operation with our soldiers and the American soldiers, is it that we are going into Venezuela with our soldiers to be part and parcel of what we heard recently on Air Force One, where the reporters asked the President of the United States of America, when we hear also that he called an emergency meeting, the President of the United States of America called an emergency meeting with his top brass, Vice President, Secretary of State, Secretary of War, and all the top heads of the military. And he said that he's keeping us secret what his next step will be concerning Venezuela. We heard all sorts of things that Nobody is going to invade Venezuela. Nobody is going to have things uneasy in Venezuela. But we have to look at it. This meeting, this emergency meeting that's called by President Trump and his top brass. And then we're hearing about the military build-up, the joint operation between the Defense Force soldiers of Trinidad and Tobago and United States, and it's a normal exercise. We have to know as citizens the truth, what is taking place. We have to know that what we hear from the Venezuelan president, I think it's 2 days ago, that he's calling on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to let our government know that we don't want no war. We heard the statement by the Foreign Affairs Minister of Venezuela. We heard the statement of the Defense Minister of Venezuela. And they're pointing fingers at Trinidad and Tobago. I do not want to see that Trinidad and Tobago will be caught in the middle of any conflict with Venezuela. Because we as a nation, just about 1.5 million people. Look at our army. Look at our manpower when it comes to defend Trinidad and Tobago with our closest neighbor, Venezuela. We see any build-up that taking place in Venezuela. And the throwing of words back and forth. And citizens are concerned. I am a concerned citizen. And if other citizens in this country, in Trinidad and Tobago, are not concerned, then something had to be definitely wrong. Because you're hearing, if my son could ask me, who is in Form 3, are we going to war? We have other children like him, like just as my son asking their parents and them the same question. And then we're hearing from the heads of departments, Homeland Security Minister, Defense Minister, don't panic. We have nothing to worry about. One said, if Venezuela attack Trinidad and Tobago, the United States will defend us. We don't want nobody to attack Trinidad and Tobago, and we don't want nobody to defend us. The main important thing, we don't want no war. Because who will be affected? The people, the citizens will be affected. We could lose lives. Our country could be a country where could remain unstable for years upon years to come. We want to know the truth, what is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago, and what is taking place also with the United States of America and Venezuela. Are we part and parcel of joining America to go into Venezuela and to remove a president? I remember Ian Robinson told me, Wendell Eversley, and he told me that in his middle of his home in Marval, the reason why I didn't want outside interference when we had our internal affairs with the attempted coup of 1990 is that we should solve our own problem. When other nations wanted to come in, is that if they allowed that, it would have been worse for us. I might not even be alive, because the first place of attack when we was hostage was the parliament. We have to be careful. We have to look at the principal stand of the Caribbean, where we keep saying we must always remain a zone of peace. And is this what I want? And every concerned citizen of Trinidad and Tobago should make a stand of this. We have problems that we have in our own land facing when it comes. Look how long we take to have a commission of inquiry into the 1990 coup, 20 years after, when this could have been make at the early stage. I know how the guns come in here. Now we still seeing how guns coming in, how army, and most, let me tell you something, most of our drugs and arms coming through our main port of entry. They coming through the airport, they coming through the ports, containers. We hear about containers of ammunition that found in Central. And we hear about anybody get arrested. Nobody get arrested. They just put it out there on the news for us. We hearing about who involved in human trafficking. Politicians' names have been called. Anybody get arrested? No. Nobody get arrested. So these are some of the things we have to be dealing with. We have a lot of investigation going on right in our own country for years, some over 20 years. And up to now, it hasn't been solved. And I could call a lot of matters before the court for 20 years involving high-profile persons in our society. And we just only hearing talk upon talk and telling us what we should hear and making us fight among our very own self. And when we have important issues to deal with, they're not dealing with it. A lot of white-collar crime committed in our country. A lot of money laundering committed in our country, and they ain't dealing with it. A lot of politicians, they have been calling all sorts of corruption, and they ain't dealing with it. Even up to today, you're hearing corrupt politicians and who they're favoring with this deal and that deal, and who friends they have outside of Trinidad and inside of Trinidad. And they ain't dealing with that. But here it is. Law-abiding citizens in this country living in fear right now. Because we don't know who to turn to for help. And that is what we are facing now in Trinidad and Tobago. We need people to come out and levy with us, tell us the truth. Don't hide behind some curtain. Don't make deals behind some backdoor deals. Because who will face the what of any situation that should take place between Trinidad, CARICOM, Venezuela, and United States? It's we the people in Trinidad and Tobago will face it. It's we the people in Trinidad and Tobago will suffer. It's we the people in Trinidad and Tobago will pay a heavy price for. And as a concerned citizen, this is about Trinidad and Tobago. This is about our country. This is about our economy. This is about our future. But you feel everybody have a visa to go to America? So if something should happen, playing with this land and will take us out of Trinidad and Tobago, we have to stay and face our music. And if we have to stay and face our music, we must face our music with responsibilities and principles, and we must stand by it. And that's what I want to see taking place in my country. And today, I ain't seeing it. Everybody is about their political party. But for once and for why we don't put away political parties and think about Trinidad and Tobago, think about what is taking place, think about what is affecting us here. You think the largest warship where America sent here, leaving Trinidad and Tobago waters without anything? Think certain people want to be a laughing stock of the world? No. And if something is to take place, let the people of Trinidad and Tobago know. That's what I want to know. And that's what I keep on saying. And that's what I will keep on talking out for. We must remain a zone of peace. And we must take the words from Nelson Mandela that your enemies should not be our enemies. And we should take also what other Caribbean nation is saying. Let us be a zone of peace.
And you know, Mr. Eversley, you make a very instrumental point. And that there are members of the public that is making the same point outside here. And you know, when they make these sentiments within the public domain, and I mean I don't want to turn this into a political discourse here, you know. But you are only seeing members of the UNC that is opposing to that. Anytime you say anything concerning, all right, let this thing remain a zone of peace. They start to call you all kind of different names. They start to say all kind of things that you know. I mean, the fighting drugs and war and gun. And I am saying that this is just posturing. I mean, people have a concern, and the concern is that hey, war is imminent. It's looking like it's imminent, and and some of the effects might fall on us. Why are we going into that? Why we do that? Do you think that we have reason to make any comment or to align ourselves or to agree with America?
I think that what we should do, because if we follow what the former president of Venezuela, Chavez, the statement that he did make concerning the United States of America, right, and even the Caribbean, that we should be a zone of peace. Now, we hear what countries in Europe, the European Union said concerning Venezuela. And just recently, the Foreign Affairs Minister for France have said that they haven't, okay, then referring to the United States of America, they haven't provided the evidence that the president of Venezuela is involved in what America says in drugs and narco terrorists. They say they haven't seen evidence and they have no evidence of that because probably did the investigation also too. And even certain Latin American countries also siding with Venezuela and the Caribbean that we should remain a zone of peace. Now, some people that say America is a bully, that bully other nations. You could go into certain history and certain past, and you look at the operation throughout Asia, the Middle East, Africa, right? And you see what took place when they went and make certain remarks about certain leaders. And when they left, you see what happened to the country. Some of the countries that we cannot still haven't recovered from the destruction that took place. And I don't want to go into call these countries. Right now, I want to concentrate on what is taking place in my beloved country, Trinidad and Tobago. And before you and I even born in America, always had a present and CARICOM and the forefathers who gone, former president and prime ministers of different Caribbean countries, had interaction with the United States of America. Coming down from the Federation, when the Federation matched up to CARICOM presently, and what CARICOM has stand for. And there's always cooperation with America. There's always a cooperation with America when it comes to sharing intelligence, when it comes to national security for the region, for our country. The United States Embassy always play a part. A matter of fact, they have embassies throughout the Caribbean. And the embassy always play a part with the government in helping them build and strengthening their security forces, strengthening their borders. This is a cooperation we always had. But one thing we always said, we wouldn't get involved in another country internal affairs. I will say let Venezuela solve the problem with Maduro. If Venezuela have a problem with him, they have the one to be solving the problem with Maduro. There's a saying, cockroach shouldn't be in foul party. And we are a small nation, Trinidad and Tobago. We shouldn't be enemies of any Caribbean country. Our closest neighbor is Venezuela. There is our closest. You feel the problems that we are facing here today? If we did deal with it from the beginning with drugs, it's concerned, guns is concerned. People never take the time to read the Commission of Inquiry into 1990. It's 2 volumes. And if all you read, or you understand where certain people who we looked up to protect our nation, to protect our borders, immigration officers, all them people name was being called. Nobody understand this. And government come, government go. We have a problem when it dealing. It have people who they say who are politicians that they involved with drug lords.
My God.
Right? And what we do about it? What we do about it? Why we have investigation ongoing and nobody have been found guilty? Nobody have been found guilty. We have investigation ongoing for years, and I could call them out for you too. And they say who have more corn could feed more fowl. This is what we are facing in our country. These are the things we're supposed to be dealing with. And when the thing get out of hand now, deciding with other people to solve our problems. When we create our problems ourselves. When we want to handpick a commissioner of police. When we want to handpick a head of the defense force. When we want to handpick a chief justice. Who caused the problems? It's because of our problems. When you have to know who knows this big lawyer, this big judge, who knows this senior superintendent of police, who knows this custom officer, who knows this immigration officer. Our problem is deeper than saying that we are going after and supporting another country to go after the narco terrorists and drug lords, when we have them in our own country here, sitting in all different departments of our country, and we doing nothing to deal with it. And if you in concern what is taking place, and if people telling us don't panic, we'll wait till when a situation happens. And then our guards down. We must know the truth. We must know the truth. Nothing didn't happen just so overnight, you know. That's why I said Abu Bakr didn't get up one night and decide to overthrow our country just so, you know. It was well planned, it was well orchestrated. and he work with other people in the protective service, outside the protective service, immigration officers, because how all those guns come into our country? They come in by boat. These are the things we have to be dealing with our country, and I am telling you this morning, this afternoon in Trinidad and Tobago, I am concerned of how my country is being run presently. We want to know what is the truth. We want to know what is the truth. Nobody should be hiding anything from us citizens. And if you read one of the chapter, I think it's chapter 11 in the Constitution of the Caribbean, it tells us the duty of our government to protect its citizens. To protect its citizens. And that's what we should be demanding right now. To know the truth. To know the truth. To know if our soldiers is going to be used to any ground operation in Venezuela. And if we are to be used in any operation, let me know upfront. Don't let it happen and then we know that something is taking place and our soldiers are involved. And we have the head of state who is in charge of the armed forces, where I always say that we should not have a ceremonial president who act on orders. And that's what we have presently, a ceremonial president as our head of state. The executive is the government.
You see certain things there that, I mean, people should be really questioning themselves now. Because if it is that we have this close relation right now with the US, and the US is in Trinidad, a matter of fact, training with the soldiers and thing in case of anything taking place, is our soldiers in Trinidad and Tobago will be involved in any operation that is imminent to take place within Venezuela. And that is a question that should be answered before it takes place. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't tell us after. I mean,
no,
and that's frightening.
We should know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We should know. We're hearing rumors that they're going to station down in the American soldiers going to station at Bayanara. I do not know. I have no evidence of that, but we're hearing rumors. And in order for rumors to clear up, somebody in authority had to clear up that rumor.
But in Brian Lara Stadium, and the ban all fets in Brian Lara Stadium at this point.
They say they ban fets, but they say that's not the reason. I do not know. I do not know. I cannot say. Right? I cannot say that is the reason. But rumors out there. We have the Prime Minister said it's concerning the noise pollution, and she's the head of the executive. She's the head of the National Security Council. She's the chairman of the National Security Council, right? And if that's so, right, we must also get the assurance that the Prime Minister speak on that, and that is and no soldiers from no foreign land is going to occupy there, right? The stadium is to prevent noise pollution.
Yeah, but Wendell, you ain't find that kind of strange. I mean, you ain't ban certain things in the streets. I mean, where Brian Lara Stadium is practically situated, it didn't have much houses and things around Brian Lara Stadium. I mean,
you don't have a place where you have noiseless traffic. Right? Soundless traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know, but the reason, right? But some do travel.
Okay.
Because even in Queens Park, Savannah, when they're having their big fete and things, the neighbors wrong. It's at a certain time they have to cut off the fete. It go to 2 o'clock. Sometimes it go to 4.
Well, that is something interesting that you would have been, you would have said just now, and if there is allegation that is floating in the public domain concerning soldiers might be operating or occupying the Brian Lara Stadium, and that could be the reason why the Prime Minister may have banned anything from taking place, I believe the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago needs to clear up that fact.
Yeah, because although she's the head of the National Security Council and head of the executive, right? She have other ministers who could clear up that. You have the Minister of Defense, you have the Minister of National Security, you have the Attorney General, and you have the Foreign Affairs Minister. And they are very key component of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. They hold very key position in the executive of the country of Trinidad and Tobago. So if we hear word from them, which meaning, because when you meet, because when the security arm meet of the country, it comprises Prime Minister, who's the chairman, the Minister of National Security, whom the which is now the Home Minister of Homeland Security, and Minister of Defense, Foreign Affairs, along with the heads of the departments of the Protective Service of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Prime Minister invite whoever to see it fit to sit at those meetings. So any one of them could come and say, what we are hearing here, so that population will not be only hearing certain streets that have been blocked off. We do not know how true it is. Right? We do not know if we will see an increase in traffic along certain part of Trinidad. So these are things the population must know, right? We don't want to be in a situation where we are panicking, where we are fearful, right? Where people are frightened. And we don't want to be caught with our pants down. Right? With only certain people know certain information, while the wider population do not know.
I want to ask you an obvious question here, Wendell. Now, you would have you're alluding to the factor that information is not forthcoming. So, the opposite to information that is not forthcoming, what you are really saying is that the relative information is not being made accessible to the average man in the streets. Is that what you are saying?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. And also, too, we must not be fed with rumors. Right? We must not be fed with rumors. We don't want rumors as being facts. We want facts as facts, and not rumors as being facts. And we also must be careful with people. It have people who will want to see bad for this country, Trinidad and Tobago. It have people who want to see us fall. And we have to be careful too with the messages that people sending out on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be very careful about the messages people sending out on Facebook. Because we don't want people sending out messages on Facebook and trying to get the public in more panic. So people who operate Facebook shouldn't listen to they say and them say and hearsay. Especially this period that Trinidad and Tobago is in right now. We don't want rumors. We don't want lies. We want the truth. We want the truth and the truth alone. And the only way we can get the truth is from those in authority. And those in authority must tell us the truth.
And Wendell, you know he's a difficult person to get on these lives here this evening, but let me ask you something in a nutshell. I mean, if you were to say concerning the performance that you are seeing so far from the present government, how you read them? Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, how you read?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give them a year before I read.
Okay. You'll give them a year before I read. Anything else?
Before I read.
Anything else that you
anything else I'll be like.
Anything else you want to add? You understand that you know that you want to add, that you know you forget to say that you want to say. You know, anything else you want to add to the discussion before we close off here this afternoon?
The only thing I wanted to add, and I will close by what Nelson Mandela said: your enemies should not be our enemies. Right? And the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago must remain a zone of peace.
And Wendell, before you go, no. I realize you're going and bring back your show in the in Woodford Square. I mean, tell us about that before you go. Don't feel you're escaping. Tell me about that show and when it will be, and we go like to broadcast it on the platform. So tell us when, and we
The Eversley show will be back on, and it will be the first Tuesday in December.
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 12 noon to 2 p.m.
Okay.
It will be live. Right now, I'm making sure I do everything correctly. Cross my I's, not dot my I's and cross my T's. I'm sending letters to the Port of Prince City Corporation. So I make sure that I get the use of the Woodford Square, which is the People's Parliament. In Woodford Square, you get all talk when it comes to politics. Anything you want to hear, you come to Woodford Square. And I'm also inviting you to also to cover the opening of the show.
Well, no problem. I go be there. I go be there to cover the opening. Well, thanks for the info.
And thanks for having me on your program today.
No problem. You're always welcome. And thanks for joining me here live, Mr. Eversley. Thank you very much,
then.
sir. Okay,
Thanks.
then. Yeah. Well, to you, the people at Trinidad and Tobago, that was Wendell Eversley, who would have joined us here live, speaking about issues that is concerning him, family, friends, and people in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's always concerning. Sometimes, you have to hear, not sometimes, but all the time, we must listen to words from the elders. So, Trinidad and Tobago, at this point in time, we are going to sign off, and we will be back here again. As they say, we have a nice lineup for next year. And for the times in the future, thanks for joining us here. And we are going to be on some of the thing that we have lined up for this platform is that this platform is going to run 24/7. Yes, 24/7. That is coming soon. So shout out to everyone that is out there that is making it possible. We urge you to join us. Follow us on our website, www.workersrights868.com. Sign up to be a volunteer, be a patriot in Trinidad and Tobago. Not this kind of thing that people want you to just call in programs and just, not seeing you as valuable, but seeing you as a tool for them to make money. So we urge you, be a part of this. Trust me, we have open segments. So we are going to make that possible. Join us, share the link, subscribe to the platform. So the many of you that haven't subscribed, please do like, share, subscribe, because this information that we are divulging here, I mean, we are going to make it interactive, that we are going to open the course. We try to put up the link. Let me try. We place the link there that anybody could have joined us, just as Wendell Eversley would have just joined us. Their live now is 2:28, and we are signing off at this point in time. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to Workers' Rights 868 on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on TikTok. And we are blasting on all platforms in high gear. Yes, in high gear. Slimy, we broadcasting on X. Just now we are going to attack Instagram, and the information cannot be hidden. All we are asking you to do is not just believe in it, but search, believe, see, experience. And with that, I am out. Thanks for watching. Vincent Jeffrey. Now, many a times, sometimes when my mind is filled, and sometimes, I need encouragement and rest, because there are many people, they are givers and they are takers. Most of the times, what we do, we encounter many takers. Who does fill us up when we are empty? Sometimes no one. Most of the time we just have to draw on strength from within, deep within. And every time I end up in a situation, I remember this verse. And I'll go on a beach. And this scriptures is it. This is the verse I'm at for. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restored my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff may comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen. And to you, the people that are listening to this, don't give up. Pray. Your blessing is on the way. Don't give up. Your blessing is on the way.
You're going to be alone in the toughest times of your life. Those moments, they make you wise, mature, and fearless. No matter how much good you do, people will always remember your mistakes. That's just the game. No is one of the most powerful words you can use. Don't be a people pleaser. Stand your ground. Prepare for the best, but be ready for the worst. To get somewhere, you got to leave something behind. It's all about timing. If you don't let go at the right time, you're left with regrets and complaints. People want you to succeed, but not more than they want it for themselves. When you're working for someone else's dream, you're sacrificing your own. Bad times, they're a blessing in disguise. They wake you up to the good things you took for granted. No matter how nice or respectful you are, some people will still talk behind your back. That's life. And here's a harsh truth. The people you love can be your biggest weaknesses. So stay strong, stay focused, and keep hustling. Life's a game, and you gotta play it smart. Drop a 100 if this resonates with you, and hit that follow button, because this account is for you. And remember this, hustlers, you're gonna be alone in the toughest times of your life. Those moments,
the past is in your head, but the future is in your hands. You can either keep whining and be a pathetic loser, or you can be a G and become the most successful person your bloodline has ever seen. Don't call me lucky. I failed more times than you tried. The past is in your head, but the future is in your hands. You can either keep whining and be a pathetic loser, or you can be a G and become the most successful person your bloodline has ever seen. Don't call me lucky. I failed more times than you tried.